Hey there folks, nice Friday afternoon here. Good time to make another video. I'm here at the beautiful Windsor Downs Nature Reserve in Western Sydney. It's just off Richmond Road. There's a nice sort of luxurious housing estate in here, semi-rural. Just sort of, off the Richmond Road, near Beyer Park and Windsor Downs. And the vegetation in here is really interesting. It's a bit hard to call it straightforward Cumberland Plain woodland. You've got some scribbly gums around. There looks like there's a bit of shale gravel transition forest. I've just been here monitoring a threatened plant, Petunia nutans. And what I thought I'd try and do is make videos on these beautiful ironbarks here, which are here pretty, and they're pretty dominant in the landscape. They're all through this part of the reserve. And the first thing you notice with these ironbarks in this part of Western Sydney is the canopy is very narrow. It's got a very narrow canopy. And if you get hold of it, and I've got some material, you're looking at leaves about up to 2 centimetres wide or less. Got these really deep furrows here. It's a rock hard bark. If you started to rub your elbow or your knee on it, you'd sort of break the skin. It's very coarse. It's incredibly coarse. You can get the odd chunk off sometimes when it's coming off, but it's a very hard, coarse bark, very rough. Almost like the Eucalyptus robusta, it's got these little micro chasms inside as well. Great habitat for spiders. Now the problem with this ironbark in Western Sydney is we've got the common Eucalyptus cribra. That's a narrow-leafed ironbark. And we've also got Eucalyptus beyeriana, and that's called Beyer's ironbark. Cribra is sort of more common through the Cumberland Plain, but we get beyeriana as well. And it's a bit of a juggle and a bit of a mission to figure out which one's which. And basically you need flowers. This is an example of where you need flowers, and even I'm going to struggle with this. But it's a good educational video anyway on the ironbarks, and we'll see what we can come up with. This is what the juvenile plants look like. So here's the juvenile. You know, you'd probably want to call it cribra, would be a default name, or cribra / beyeriana. Got these nice narrow bluish leaves. And this is sort of some sort of coppicine sapling on the side of the track. So the leaves have got a really good dash of blue in them. They're not mid-green at all. Always with a good hint of bluey green, I think. They should be concolorous. They should be well and truly concolorous. A lot of these ironbarks have no hint of discoloration at all, either definitely in the adult phase, possibly in the juvenile phase as well. You might get a little bit of discoloration, but cribra and beyeriana are known for being concolorous. Remember Eucalyptus paniculata, I made a video on that. It's meant to be one of the few ironbarks that throws discolorous leaves. So if you haven't seen that video, I've got a tree there from Sutherland Shire. You can have a look at that one. But these guys are very concolorous. I grabbed some material here from a street tree, and we'll just start to look at some of the features. Now, Eucalyptus beyeriana, it's described as having buds in 7s, and they're meant to be in concrete 7s. Cribra can go from 7 to 11. Reportedly 7 to 11 for cribra and 7 for beyeriana. And whether you're looking at the buds, the flowers, or the fruits, what Cribra and Beyeriana have is these sort of things on the small side. They've got really small buds, small fruits, small flowers as well. So this might be the buds in a certain stage of development. I'm just not too sure. And if I just start to zoom in on some of them, you can see that again, like the Eucalyptus video I just uploaded, they're in a bit of sort of confluorescences. Their umbellasters arranged in sort of sprays of confluorescences where they're sort of clustered together. So they're not exactly down in the leaf axils. They're sort of in these, what we'd call, you can call them inflorescences of inflorescences. What's termed a confluorescence. But if I start looking at the buds, I guess if I start to think I'm not getting higher than 7, then that might lend weight to Beyeriana over Cribra. If I'm not getting clusters of more than 7. I'm just trying to show you one here where that's got a definite 7 on it, but I'm really struggling even to do that. Just the way they're arranged and sort of flapped about all over the place. Leaves, the adult leaves, like I said, they've got a good hint of bluey green. I think they do anyway. It's a cloudy day today. We've had some rain, but I mean, I'd sort of want to do better than describe that as green. I'd sort of want to call it a bit bluey green. You can see how narrow they are, hopefully. They're only about, 15 mil across or something like that. Now, I think Beyeriana on Euclid is described as having leaves to 2 centimetres wide. And I think Cribra, they say to 27 millimetres wide, but I'm not sure if that's a typo. I'm not sure if they're meant to say 17 mils wide. I think they say 27 on Euclid, which seems a bit wide, but, leaf width is incredibly variable. Concolorous. So we're looking at leaves about 20 mil wide. I don't know if they're allowed to go up to 27 mil for Cribra. Seems a bit wide to me. New South Wales Flora, I think they've got both of them as less than 20 centimetres. They've got sort of Beyeriana at about 17, I think, and Cribra at about 15, something like that. So probably not going to be able to do the leaf width anyway. But the leaves aren't overly long either. They're not overly long leaves. These leaves on average are about 15 mil wide or a bit wider to, I would say, 7 centimetres long or 6 centimetres long. They're not very long at all. 6, 7 centimetres. I'm sure you can get longer, maybe up to 10 centimetres, but if you're thinking 10 centimetres, that's probably about as long as these leaves are getting anyway. There's finally a nice one in 7. So there's a cluster of 7 there. So that's what you're meant to be looking for. So just see how that individual umbellaster has 7. And as far as I can see across this plant, I'm not really getting any more than 7. So that might be lending weight to Beyeriana. I can't find any herbarium records just here for Beyeriana, but there's none for Cribra either. No one's collected a herbarium record from this reserve. But that's not really an atypical situation, but it's a reserve that's had a lot of study, and I just thought there might have been a couple of herbarium specimens lodged for the 2 species. You can see the arrangement of the umbellasters is sort of very messy. It's very just because they're in secondary clusters. It's getting a bit bit hard to tell an individual unit, but that's a good sort of feature. Coverage of the buds anyway. I normally talk about the leaf texture. I didn't do that. The leaves are, if I just pick these guys up, they're they've got a nice smooth texture. They're very smooth. They're not overly thick. They're more on the thin side. I would say they're more thin and not really, they don't really have a thickish feel. Snap them. Yeah, they sort of rip off. They rip off without too much trouble. So that can help some people. With a lot of these eucalypts, I haven't been talking about smell. I've never really smelt Creeper before. I've never really given it a good crush and smelt it. But we may as well do that. God, look at the furrows on this one. Holy Toledo. Bit of sap coming out. Those furrows are about, they'd be about 5 to 10, 5 centimetres deep. Quite amazing. Yeah, there's a bit of a smell there. It's not overly strong. It's pretty eucalyptusy, but it's not overly strong. It doesn't have an overly strong smell. But then again, the sun isn't out today. That might help with the scent, activating the oils. But the smell's nice. It's a nice enough smell there, yeah. Sort of refreshing. So don't forget, you got to try and home in on those flowers. It's purely New South Wales, Queensland. I thought it used to be recognised as going all the way to Kangaroo Island through Victoria and South Australia, but I might be confusing that with something else. There could have been a taxonomic revision, or I'm just getting confused. God, the furrows on this one, just really, hard ridges. Yeah, Creeper will sort of go north of the Nowra area, just south of Sydney. And it goes north. It moves into the central parts of New South Wales in the north. I think it gets out around Moree, Dubbo, those areas. And then it kicks on into Queensland, where it goes well and truly through Queensland, sort of through to about the halfway mark going west. So halfway through the state from east-west, and then it goes right up to Cape York Peninsula. It goes right up to there. Yeah, Beyeriana, that's got a smaller range. That's a New South Wales endemic, but it goes from about Nowra, New South Wales, south of Sydney there, and it punches up sort of north and northwest, and it goes right out into the northwestern parts of northwest into the central parts of New South Wales, just like Creeper does, and I'm sure there'd be a lot of intermingling of records. I think Beyeriana gets to sort of west of Armidale and west of Tamworth there, I think, and it sort of peters out around there. Maybe again Dubbo, Moree, that sort of area, but it doesn't punch on into Queensland. Not that people say anyway. So Beyeriana, it's just got a bit of a smaller range, but it's all intermingled with the Creeper range. So that makes it incredibly complicated because they are so similar. It's meant to be on sandy soil, Beyeriana. It's described as being on sandy soil, where Creeper is on more of a, is on a variety of soils, can be on clay, go across its range, and it does have a massive range. Like I said, some species have been pulled out of Creeper before, but I think Euclid sort of lumps them back in, saying there's just not enough difference to recognise them as being separate entities, I don't think. Now, we're just going to look at the flowers, and this involves a little bit of detail, and it's going to be a real struggle, but we'll see how we go. Here are the flowers for Creeper beyeriana. And what the boffins tell us is that in some of the ironbarks, you have all the stamens fertile. All the stamens have anthers on the top. Well, a stamen is comprised of a filament, meaning the stalk or the thread, and the pollen-bearing anthers on top. And some of the ironbarks, they don't have all of the stamens having the anthers, and they're called staminodes. They're called staminodes when they're in fertile stamens, and this is a feature of ironbarks. And I'm going to have a massive amount of trouble, I reckon, with this phone on maximum spread, maximum zoom, whether any of these flowers have got staminodes or not. If they've got staminodes, it's meant to be the basal whorl, it's meant to be the outer whorl. and they will lack anthers. They will lack those little brown pollen producing sacs, if you like. And the more I study it, and I well and truly studied it before this video, the more I think I can see staminodes there at the base of the flowers. But what I'm going to have to do is take these home and get them under a hand lens and just let you know, and under a microscope. I'm going to have to get them under a microscope and just let you know what I saw. But just remember that there's a group of ironbarks where all stamens are fertile, and there's a couple of ironbarks where they have a ring of staminodes at the bottom. And I reckon if we just look to the right of that flower down at those lateral parts, I think I can just make out that there's no anthers there on those. Now, if you get it consistently, and remember, you got to check multiple flowers, don't just check one flower, but if you get it consistently, the staminodes, that's meant to be Beyeriana in this part of Sydney. That's meant to be Beyeriana. And Cribra will have all stamens fertile. I'm turning the flowers upside down. That might make it easier. I reckon I can just see staminodes there, but I'm going to have to take it home and have a good look under the microscope. Now, I'll tell you this, if I see that they're all fertile, I'm going to upload this video as Cribra. But if I see that they're all infertile, if I see the staminodes, if I see the one ring of staminodes, I'm going to upload it as Beyeriana. Maybe I'll just put both names on it. But that's what we're looking for these two. I've done flora surveys where if you don't have flowers and you're in particular parts of Sydney, you just got to call it Eucalyptus Cribra Beyeriana. You just got to say in your flora report, they could be Cribra, they could be Beyeriana, we're not sure. Are they both growing here? Maybe they are. It's quite possible. And do they hybridise? Yes, they probably do. And I think there's already records of that. I think there was a eucalyptus called Eucalyptus beyeri, and that was considered to be a hybrid of the two. I don't know how you would tell that Cribra and Beyeriana are hybridising. Maybe you get some flowers with staminodes and some without. But these flowers are 5 mil across, or maybe from stamen to stamen they'd be about 7 mil. But they're just tiny. And we've got to look in there and see if there's any staminodes. And that's going to nail the ID. So you've got to get hold of flowers for these two. It's very difficult. You just can't get them all the time. But that's what we're after for Beyeriana Cribra. Some people think there's some differences in the leaf venation and possibly in the shape of the buds. And some people might be able to comment and say the buds you've got are definitely, they're definitely much more Beyeriana-like and less Cribra-like. And I'm happy to hear that as well. That would be good to know. Now, I've got some fruit here which I'll try and show. And whether it's Beyeriana or Cribra, the fruits are tiny. They're absolutely tiny. These fruits I've got here, I'm looking with my naked eye now. They're about, they're not even 5 mil long, I wouldn't think. And they would be about 3 mil wide. That's the size of them. I think the video is making them look a lot bigger than they are, though you can see my fingers there. Maybe if I just put my dirty fingernail near them, you can probably get an idea of how small they are. Yeah, we're talking sort of, 3 mil by 3 mil, 3 mil by 5 mil, that sort of dimension. They're absolutely tiny. Just amazing how small they are. You can see they've got long pedicels, maybe up to 10 mil, maybe around 5 mil. And they do have a peduncle which looks about 10 mil long. The common peduncle for the one umbellasta. They're sort of box looking. They remind me of a box type fruit. I mean, they remind me of something like Melliodora or maybe something like Moyakana, but they're very small. They're incredibly tiny. Just going to show these ones. I haven't got any clusters of 7. There's too many fruits have fallen away. But there they are there. I reckon, I mean, and I don't know, but I'm going to say one of the smallest gum nuts, one of the smallest capsules you're ever going to get. So my money's on beyeriana at this point, and I think the vegetation here probably suits more beyeriana. We've got a bit of sandy alluvium in this site. When I get what I think is definitely Cribra, might make a separate video on that. If I get out onto the Cumberland Plain, Western Sydney, on really good clay soils, I'll probably be more confident with Eucalyptus Cribra, but I'll be looking for those umbellasters in up to 11s. And I'll be looking for those fertile flowers. The flowers being all stamens fertile. That's what I need for Cribra. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed that one. That's a whole canopy almost of either, you know, narrow-leafed ironbark or Bayer's ironbark. A whole beautiful canopy. Very narrow canopy. These trees are about, yeah, they're pushing 20 metres. I'd say they're pushing 20 metres. They're nice big tall ones. And yeah, both trees, they probably struggle to get taller than that. You might get a 25 metre one. They're growing in a lot of harsh climates across New South Wales. Hot and dry a lot of the time, or hot and drier. Cribra's a real dryland species. So 25 metres might be about the peak for Cribra and beyeriana. Alrighty, hope you've enjoyed that one. And that helps a bit more. Come and visit this reserve if you're in the Sydney area and you get a chance. It's quite a nice place to come down to.